democracy does not protect freedom. It enables the government to repress our freedom, to confiscate our wealth, and redistribute our wealth. And Republicans are as complicit as this as Democrats. My piece argues that we don't have two political parties in this country. We have one party. It's the big government party.
Yep.
It has a Republican wing that likes war and taxes and borrowing and corporate welfare, and the Democratic wing that likes war and taxes and borrowing and individual welfare. Together, they have written laws that frustrate any type of third or fourth party from having ballot access to compete with them. And their greatest goals are to share power. Well, 2 years you're in power, 2 years we're in power, but we'll scratch each other's backs. Thomas Jefferson, who I loved, Alexander Hamilton, who, had I been around at the time, would have been a fierce opponent of, agreed on one thing in their lives publicly. And that is, when the public treasury becomes a public trough, the public will send to the seat of government only those who will bring back as much of the pie as they can. And that's where we are today. And it happens on local, state, and federal level. So since Woodrow Wilson borrowed $30 billion to finance World War I, $30 billion that we still owe back, and on which we've paid $15 billion in interest charges. This is unbelievable. Only the federal government could pay a 50%, 50 interest rate. Since then, the big government party, Republicans and Democrats, have borrowed and spent $31 trillion more than they've collected in taxes. This is the debt with which they've saddled us. When Republicans are in, their spending goes to the military-industrial complex and to other Republican favorites. When the Democrats are in, their spending goes to grab bag giveaways and Democratic presidents, but favorites. But under both parties, the government continues to grow, taxes go up, debt grows, liberty is repressed, wealth is redistributed. It doesn't matter which one of them is in power. That's the thesis of the piece that I wrote. And the public will now see that. It appears today, the day after Election Day, that the Democrats will keep the Senate. The Republicans will very narrowly, not by the huge margins they had boasted they were going to get, but very narrowly keep the House. You're not going to see any reduction in spending or a reduction in the repression of liberty whatsoever. You're going to see it just as bad.
You know, talking about war, you know, there was virtually no debate going on between either party about the Ukraine war.
You're exactly right. You and I, just two of us, talked more about Ukraine than Republican candidates running for the Senate or running for the House
combined.
And I got to tell you, yesterday, our mutual friend, Colonel Douglas McGregor, revealed on my podcast that his sources told him that when Jake Sullivan, the president's national security advisor, was speaking to his Russian counterpart, he threatened him and basically said, we have 40,000 troops in Poland and there are 50,000 Polish troops. Here's a couple of red lines. Go over those red lines and you're going to meet our troops. What?
That's what that guy, Jake Sullivan, boy, he looks like he could be the great-grandson of Goebbels.
Yeah.
You know,
I feel sorry for him. He does look that way. He's a Hillary Clinton hack.
I know. And arrogant.
Came that close to getting indicted in the Hillary Clinton email scandals, during which, of course, nobody was indicted.
Yeah.
Now he's got this powerful job with Biden. If Biden sent him to threaten Putin, then Biden is crazier than we thought. If this kid, and he's a young man, went there on his own to threaten Putin, and the Secretary of Defense and Secretary of State didn't know about it, well, then he's a rogue actor who's going to drag us into World War III. Either way, if what Doug McGregor reported is accurate, it's horrific. But to your point, nobody debates war and peace.
None.
We're going to spread democracy. War does not spread democracy. It spreads killing. That's what war does. It kills. You didn't hear that debated in America in the past 2 months.
No. And, you know, they had this line, you know, God bless America. I was driving up to Lenox, Mass. the other day, and a person had one out on their lawn. What God blesses war?
No God blesses
No,
war.
God does not bless America if America blesses war. I
Right.
mean, the hypocrisy of this. And again, it was never a issue in this midterm election with the people of running for Congress, the Senate. And you go on to say over here about this is the same Republican Party that gave us the Department of Education and its 4,400 bureaucrats. The Department of Homeland Security, 240,000 federal cops. The National Security Agency, the NSA, 60,000 domestic spies. The CIA, 21,000 foreign spies and its secret war. The FISA court and its domestic surveillance and the wars in Iraq, Afghanistan, and their $2 trillion tab. By the way, I've heard bigger than $2 trillion. And neither declared by Congress. In 110 years, the big government party in Congress has spent $51 trillion more than the feds have collected in tax dollars, which you mentioned before. When you look at the total debt, by the way, with Social Security and other things, the numbers are up to about $226 billion.
The numbers are astronomical.
26 trillion. Yeah.
The numbers are mind-boggling. Man, the way they've written these laws, it's nearly impossible to reverse them. So the government collects between 2.5 and 3 trillion a year. 90% of that goes out immediately to the Defense Department and to the redistribution of wealth. The government doesn't even have to vote on it. Each Congress binds its future Congress. So there's really no stopping this unless you get a Congress full of Ron Pauls or Thomas Masseys that are just willing to bite the bullet. And as more and more people, there are a lot of good people that work in the military-industrial complex, a lot of hardworking blue-collar people that work for these industries. They would have to lose their jobs. Mom and pop on Social Security and Medicare, they would lose their income. I mean, they've created a level of dependency that would make it nearly impossible for there to be the political support to undo this. Only the collapse of the federal government would undo this.
I have to tell you, I thought I call them the Democrats and the Repulsivans. I thought
by the way, nobody comes up with these words better than you do. The other day I heard you call Hillary Clinton Hitlery Clinton. I mean, I just don't think that way. All of a sudden, these words pop out of your mouth and they're hilarious.
Thank you. It does, but it reflects who they are. They're repulsive and they're crap. And again, when you look at this system and what's happened, I really thought, by the way, that the Republicans would have taken more seats in both in the Senate and the House. I thought they would do better than they did. But then again, you look at the people that are running. It's which am I going to vote for, Donald Duck or Mickey Mouse?
There you go.
It's a clown show.
Yeah.
And when you look at the whole situation, it's like you were voting for somebody in high school for running for class president, and they haven't left. They haven't left high school, and we haven't left high school because it's the same. The principal is in charge. The teachers are in charge. You're not allowed to have any kind of thinking on your own. You have to obey exactly what they tell you, and you have to pass a test and give the answers that they tell you that you must give. We haven't gotten out of high school.
We have not gotten out of that. You're right. And part of the problem in this country is the public school system and that mentality, which does not encourage creative thinking, which encourages obeisance to authority, which has guaranteed income, guaranteed clients, and no competition. That really, and this happens generation after generation after generation. What you just described, what you and I went through 60 years ago, 60, is similar to what these kids go through today. No creative thinking, just do what we tell you to do.
Yep.
Think the way we tell you to think.
And you really name it properly when you say it's not a public school system, it's a government school.
Oh, they hate that. There's a government high school not far from here, and every once in a while they ask me to speak there. And whenever I call it the government school system, I can see the looks on the faces of the teachers and the administrators. Like, oh, here we go again.
Yeah.
The kids resonate to it. They know I'm speaking truthfully.